Okay, welcome back. Today I get almost everything out of the way of the firewall and evaluate these sideboards. I wanted to try to show you something. As you might be able to see in the time lapse, I'm trying to drill out the spot welds where I see them and then use the panel splitter and a hammer and just kind of go along and lift apart this top layer from the old cowl, split it apart from the other layers. I'm trying to do this a little meticulously since we might be saving most of this firewall. We'll see once I get everything cleaned up how much we are going to save. I'm going to work under the assumption that I'm saving as much as possible. So one of the problems I'm facing is I'm going along, and some of them are obvious. I don't have any obvious ones to show you, but sometimes you can see the indent and a nice little round spot where they have the spot welds. But there are other spots, sorry for the pun, that are harder to see. So what I do is once you get a spot that you know, a place where you can actually start splitting apart, you go as far as you can, and then you'll start to meet a little resistance. And what'll happen is the surrounding metal, as you pry it up, is going to start to reveal where it's still connected. And you can see I'm going along and I'm meeting resistance, and right there is an indent that wasn't there before. Maybe it was kind of a shadow, but hard to see. And as I go along and I'm getting more resistance, it's lifting up and it becomes obvious. You get a nice round spot. There might actually be two here. They're not necessarily evenly spaced, but here I'm going to go ahead and drill out here and see if that weakens it. There might be two side by side. If not, I'll drill out the other one. That saves you from a lot of hammering and prying and potentially damaging this underlying metal.
Okay, here is the same place, not spot, we were working on. The original one, this little hole on the left, was not exactly where the spot weld all the way through was. It looked nice and defined like a spot weld, but no, I missed. You can tell because the top layer isn't connected to the bottom layer. The one here on the right, however, was it, once I finally pried up. So I kind of pried around it, waited to see that it lifted all the way, and then started making my way to the left. The same process all the way along, just to gently lift it up and try to remove the top layer. It's going to be the top two layers from the cowl, remove it from the firewall. It's a little tedious and it takes some time, but that's all right. Here's another really good example that might be easier to see. That circle right there, see if I can get it to focus that close. That was not obvious. It was, I mean, there's layers of paint on here. There was no indent visible until I started splitting this panel along here. And as soon as I started feeling resistance, I started going around from different angles, and you can see the surrounding metals lifted up a little bit, and it reveals exactly where the spot weld is right there. So I'm going to get the spot weld cutter, cut out right there, and hopefully it'll pop right off. There it is. You could say that I drilled it spot on and it popped right off.
So at this point, I'm really just cleaning up the rest of the metal and then removing everything from the firewall and behind the dash area. So I went ahead and removed the accelerator pedal, various other things, the emergency brake cable and handle, and speedometer cable going through the firewall, and various other items back there that I could access pretty easily. Okay, got a lot of stuff out of the way. Connections for the wiper fluid hookup, the wiring harness, disconnected the emergency brake, and the mount on both sides of the firewall for that. Yeah, a lot of stuff out of the way. I keep flip-flopping on this. I'm going back and forth. You can see as I come down here, here's the torque box we did a couple videos ago, and I knew that from here down it was basically spent, the firewall was. But you can see here, possibly, there's something floating there, but ignore that. There's a hole right there, and it's starting to get so thin it's rusted through. So it doesn't make sense to try to save this portion, right? So starting with the left kickboard, if you will, looks like I'm probably going to replace from here over. I also, back when I was convinced I was replacing this, I went ahead and sliced, just getting all three sections of metal off at once. I'm going to revisit that in a second. So if I'm replacing from here over, we looked at the other side. This is where your steering goes through here, and you've got your mount for your brake pedal. We've looked at this in other videos, but the other side of this is mangled. Granted, it's hidden by the brake booster, but I personally really don't like that. So I was going to replace up to here. Now, if we look over to the other side, there's the torque box, the passenger side kick panel over there. I had rust that had dripped down over here, and so I had cut out, both for ease of access to install the torque box and because it was rusted pretty thin there down. So I'm probably replacing from that kickboard over to here. Now, that leaves from here to here that I'm potentially not replacing. That is basically looking at replacing most of the firewall at that point. So I don't know what I was so excited about last video. I'm basically gonna have to replace most of it anyway. The bright side is that makes a lot of this cleanup a lot easier, because if it's all coming out, it's all coming out. And yeah, honestly, by the time I section things in, I might as well replace it. So let me know what you think. I think the more I dig into it, the more the firewall itself is just not worth saving. It'd be one thing if I were just sectioning in the toe board sections here and here, maybe making a patch for that. But yeah, it doesn't make sense in my mind to section in 80% of a panel and then deal with all the seam welds and everything there. Might as well just take it out and replace it. Okay, I'm over at the passenger side kickboard. Originally, I was thinking that these would be pretty good as well, and they still might be. I know back when I did the torque box, they were pretty good at the bottom, good enough to definitely save. As we come up, you can see there's probably a little more than surface rust. It's definitely getting scaly. Still not too terrible. The part that I get concerned about, let me see if I can show you in there decently, is in here. And what that is where the door hinges mount. You can see those are the ends of the bolts for the door hinge right here and here. So I'm not sure on that one. That's definitely we need to investigate a little further. Looks like someone put something on there. Was that me a long time ago? I honestly, that might be dripping down from when I repaired a patch on this A-pillar, now that I think of it. I did that many videos ago on the underside of this drip rail. So I'm thinking what happened was we had just the rain trickling down this drip rail that caused the issue here, but then also drip down in there and just years and years of sitting out in the elements wore away. So what I'm going to do, not today, at some point soon, while I have everything off and I have the access, I'm going to probably remove the hinges and dig into this and see what exactly I'm working with. It doesn't make sense to put everything back on if I've got a structural issue, but really I don't have a good enough look. I gotta look more into this. All right, this is kind of a moment of truth. I'm gonna take off the hinges and clean this up and see what we're working with. I mean, it sounds good from here, but we'll see if I have any rust through or anything, and if I'm looking at cleaning this up or replacing this right here. So as I'm cleaning this up, what I'm looking for is any spots that the previous folks who worked on this car hid with Bondo and filler. There have been a few places where there were obviously issues that should have been addressed, and they just Bondoed over it just to mask it and let it fester underneath. If you go way back in the videos, a good case in point is the roof. As you can see, things are cleaning up quite nicely, so I'm pretty encouraged so far. Okay, as you can tell, this actually cleaned up quite nicely. I was looking around on the other side, and it's not as bad. I know you guys are probably tired of me going back and forth on this. It's not as bad as I thought it was going to be. So I think we clean up what we can. I have some rust converter and some rust encapsulator, various other rust treatment products. I'm going to go ahead and treat the inside and get that all squared away and save these side panels. I'm probably going to, or possibly, up where we had the thinning up here. Here's not so bad, but we'll see if there's anything I need to replace or just patch up. And obviously I'll clean up around there. I got all the rest of the wiring harness out of there. I started working on the steering. I went ahead and made a nice mess of the already messy interior. Got the various components out, got it down to just a spear. I have the one piece, so I can't just disconnect a rag joint or anything there. I have to take this all out as one piece. I was fairly hopeful that I would be able to just remove the nut and drop the pitman arm off there. I think that's the pitman arm off of the steering box. No such luck. I've got a new pitman arm puller on the way, and we'll keep going when that arrives. Okay, if you've made it this far, I want to thank you for stopping by. Thanks for watching. Next video should be prepping the inside where some of that rusty metal is, where the door hinges are. Finish prepping up the firewall, and pretty soon we're going to be looking at hopefully installing the new firewall, which is pretty exciting. That'll be getting that firewall and cowl in there will be a real big milestone.